I'm joined this morning by Jeff Mogera, who will tell us more on what is happening on the sports action, especially with Omanyala's saga. And also we have Caroline Oboyo as well, who will give us more from the social media. All right, as always, let's put this horse into full run by looking at what is happening on the sports arena. Jeff, good to see you. Omanyala was a big disappointment for Kenyans. And we know what really happened with the visa fiasco. But now the truth is being peddled from both sides of the extreme. Who is fooling whom?
And really, sometimes you see, people should be careful on how to respond to questions, especially when you're talking about the visa issue.
Yes.
Because the way you respond to questions determines how the Americans on the other side are going to handle it. Because if you lie at any point, things will go wrong for you. And Omanyala himself has admitted at some point that he didn't put his words, or he didn't say the right things at the end of the day. For example, the question of marriage came up. And you know, you never know. Maybe he said he's married or not, but he says he's not received any formal communication from the embassy of the US about his visa delays. But the Minister of Sports intervened and he got the visa. But now the ministry said Omanyala lied. People say Omanyala lied at the embassy. Omanyala say I didn't lie. So there's a lot of information coming out, but justifying what is coming out, you can't tell. And also, if really Omanyala said that he's not married, or he lied that he's not married, and in reality, on the broad daylight, he's been telling the whole world that he loves his wife, he has a son, and everybody knows that. So there's no way you can have a son in the ball and you're not married.
So let me ask you, so what is the issue then with the marriage saga and his name being submitted late in the day that actually costed him going to America very late in the day as well? The
problem might be between AK and the Ministry of Sport. They should come out clearly and say, did they give priority to athletes? Number one.
So the marriage issue is just a side issue.
A side issue. That's just a scapegoat. Everybody's just running to that. Did they submit Omanyala's name in time?
Yes.
Were they called in time for the interviews? And yes, of course, they were called in time for the interviews. Why did Omanyala's visa and Sheila Jikroi's visa delay? Sheila's never came out. But she had a visa earlier of 5 years which expired. That was B1, B2. Same as Omanyala, which expired, and they need a new one. Renewing was not an issue, but they were given a visa. They were supposed to be given a visa for the Oregon event. So we can't just point out to Americans that's as delaying the issue. They have procedure. They have people who are sick, and they have who want to seek medical in the US. And also they have people who are going to an event. These people, the two, are similar. Priority should be given to these two people. So you can't say that they delayed because of the backlog. Did you put in the emergency that is required? Because AK submits names. The Ministry of Sports follows up on the process. Because it's not AK's position to argue that why it's not coming out. The ministry, that is the government, following up on your athletes. Did you put in a request for emergency processing? If they didn't do that, then there's a problem. And also, most of the officials went ahead of the athletes.
Most of the officials?
Yes, and we have physiotherapists who are here in Kasarani. Up to now, they have not left. The problem is,
so ideally,
what happened to this? Why did doctors' names and maybe Omanyala's and Sheila's came late? Or something is wrong somewhere. But we can't point fingers out to the ministry because we don't know really if they did put in the names
but
first.
But clearly we know the issues of why ministry officials will want to go earlier, so that you can reckon more days and of course get you more per diem at the end of the day.
But it's not about per diem. Dibal, we're talking about the country. If these athletes were not here,
but that's what I'm saying. You know, they are navel gazing and they're just thinking about themselves. It's not really about Omanyala and what good he will do for the country and what this particular race really meant for us as Kenya and the entire Africa as it is. So they are really short-sighted at the end of the day because it's all about the selfish interest.
But you look at this country, it's a beautiful country, and you become greedy over some things. Imagine how many events can you travel to with these athletes if you put them first, if they were given anything they required in time. There's so many events around the world and people want to travel with these athletes. So you can't tell me that the Ministry of Sport had so many people traveling to take care of what? To do what anyway?
So there is the issue of the cabinet's daughter also being in this particular list.
It's not
this
clear
is a matter
because
under
people are saying
investigation.
that. You see, I usually treat that as propaganda because we can't justify that Amina's daughter is in the UK, in the US right now. Because if she is there, we can't justify really if she traveled under the contingent of the country taking care of the world championship athletes. We can't justify that. People are talking about it, and it's loud out there. But we have supporting evidence that she's indeed there, and she traveled, and the trip was paid for by the government. If not, we can't say she's there. If she is there, yes, can we justify she traveled under the government?
All right. And I think that is a matter under investigation, so we'll just leave it for the authorities to tell us more on that. So what is the way forward? There's 2 weeks to this, then we'll get the final verdict?
Yeah, we will get the final verdict. You see, the real scandal came out because athletes who traveled there saw the horrors they saw, performed dismally, some successful, but when they came back home and they said, you know what, so-and-so made this happen. And those people have followed out. The athletes who went to Oregon, up to now, we have had no complaint. Apart from Manyala, there's no complaint that we are sleeping, everything is not okay, and you're not comfortable, you're not happy. Everything for them seems okay. Even though the media should prop to this issue of people traveling ahead of athletes. The media and the DCI should prop this issue of getting things done the way there's a procedure in everything. If you're traveling under the government, there's a procedure you should follow.
But ideally, you being an athlete, and we just also maybe looking at that particular issue in the morning as well, we have different altitudes, we have different climate zones. Why would the officials put Omanyala's name very late in the day, as I've mentioned, instead of even a month or even just 3 weeks before the material competing day?
The reason as why the government
so that now the physiotherapist will help,
give
you can
this
actually,
time.
Yes.
It's because we had a sports fund. Sports fund is a money set out for the sports. It was now integrated into the universal healthcare. This sports fund was supposed to support athletes. But earlier, like a month ago, we had a government complaint, the Minister of Sports saying, we have spent to the limit. We can't, it's not that there's no money, but we can't spend beyond that limit. That's why so many teams, like Malkia Strikers and others, were denied funds to go to travel and train outside. Because the ministry had spent to the limit. There are so many teams, so many national teams, which they're taking care of. So probably going to Oregon earlier, like a month earlier, it won't help. But because most of these athletes as well, they were training around the country. So they were not really in camp, but most of them were training around the country. And they had to prepare themselves here before they go there. It's been a routine. Athletes travel like 3 or 4 days earlier, and they go there, participate, perform so well, they come back home. So we're used to these climates all over. Most of them have traveled. The problem comes in, like why, the question that we should be asking the ministry, and they should come out to answer, did they give athletes priority? The question number one. Did they support their visa applications to the final day? If they did, then the blame will not be on their side. But if they did not do, especially in the case of Sheila and Omanyala, then they should be held responsible. Yeah.
Right.
Because Omanyala's visa was under the intervention of Amina. Were it not for Amina, it should not have gotten out.